Hello and welcome back to Automation Answers. We are back in London and with me is Vineta from Rohlik Group, the CFO. It's a long time coming, nearly a year planning this, so we got here in the end. For those that don't know you, I think it's fair to say you're a bit of a automation and retail and grocery rock star. If that's it's high praise.
Someone needs to tell my mother this.
For those that don't know you, watchers and listeners, would you mind just giving an intro into yourself, who you are, how we've come here, and then a bit of an intro into Rohlik Group as well?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Vineta. I'm a finance person. I don't know if you've ever had a finance person on this.
No, best.
And a grocer. So my background is finance. Notably, I spent about 10 years at a company called Autostore Group, and currently I am Group CFO of Rohlik Group. And I'm a bit of a retail nerd, automation nerd. I love warehouses, and I love, and it's a great hand-in-hand point when you're a finance person, because seeing, how things come to life and then how you see the benefits is really cool. In Rohlik, so Rohlik are basically an online grocer. So like Ocado was an online grocer with Ocado.com. Rohlik are basically a same-day, pure-play online grocer. We started in the Czech Republic about 10 years ago in 2014. And we got to profitability about 5 years later. And then we started expanding in Europe. We now are in 5 countries. So we went to Hungary, then we went to Austria, Germany, and Romania. So we're in 5 countries. The offering is a full basket, same day offering. So what that means is I can order my €100 basket within 1 to 3 hours, and it's the freshest produce. And the difference that we offer, which is obviously I live in the UK, so it's we're used to next day and prepackaged stuff, which is just kind of what you get in the UK or even in the US. But what we offer is in continental Europe, it's about having freshly cut salami, freshly baked bread. And so what Rohlik did to try and integrate into each of these countries is we offer the same SKU range you have in grocers. So we have the full range that way. But our ultra fresh means that we partner with local bakers, local butchers, and local farmers in the cities that we go to and bring that produce in, while also offering a higher end assortment as well. So because when you can have a warehouse, you can have anything anywhere. So we have some stuff you won't get on the top shelf in a retailer. And so we do that offering. And the target customer is families with kids, because the concept effectively, like any grocer or anyone who kind of values their time and puts a price on their time, is going, I don't want to go to the store and drag my kids on a Saturday screaming, trying to get, probably less fresh food at similar or maybe higher prices. And so we're now about $1 billion revenue across all those 5 countries. We're a Series D backed business. We're a private business. We've done Series D, and our largest external investor is Index Ventures. So from an automation perspective, we have mainly automated warehouses. So we started in the Czech Republic, where we had a manual warehouse, because in a Central European country with labor rates being slightly lower, it's easier to do that. But when you start expanding to a Western market, actually automation's a very important part and leverage into how you hit profitability or better unit economics. So we use technology from Autostore in our automated warehouses. We also have some robotic arms that we're trialing. And we just have a bunch of different technology that we either use hardware, and we have a huge amount of technology internally that we've developed with our hundreds of developers and IP. And recently we just launched our technology arm called Volok. And it's about being able to allow and enable grocers globally to utilize our modular and scalable and flexible, pretty affordable technology that we've built, that have built a successful, profitable grocer, and to enable that to power kind of grocers globally.
Brilliant.
Sorry, it was a long speech, but
no, I like it.
We're an awesome business.
Getting
fresh stuff today in an hour at decent prices, what I want, and the P&L works, and I make money. I don't know any same-day grocers full basket that make money globally.
Agreed. wins all round.
Yeah, exactly.
And fresh, emphasis on the fresh as well. I think that's super important.
Well, exactly, right? Because, people are quite particular about when they go to the store and they go, well, actually, I want to get, this particular orange or this mango or something. And that's one of the huge skeptics for people when they think about online. I'm sure you probably had a conversation with your parents or uncles or aunts or somebody where you've gone, oh, you should just buy it online. And they'll go, oh, but, they always send me, it'll be damaged or whatever it is, right? But what you get in our warehouses is fresher than what you get in the store. It's only picked once, while in the store you go in and, people have groped your mango and they've pawed at it. And how many people have touched it before? It's super weird, right? So you kind of have one grope per SKU. That's terrible. That's not a metric. But you see what I mean, right?
It's a valid point.
And so it's like being able to do this in grocery and make money is awesome. And I don't think there's any other business globally like us.
Brilliant. Touch on what you said. Big question. First question, jumping into it at a broad view. Should retailers in general, then we'll touch on grocery, but should retailers automate and when?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it depends on who their customer base is, right? So if you just step back, there's a huge generational channel shift on who's buying, who's buying and who can buy, right? So you probably got I'm a millennial, so my grandparents, my parents, and then me, and then Gen Alpha, or Gen Z, and then Gen Alpha. And as you go down that channel, what happens is the data shows that basically millennials onwards, about 80% of their spend is online. And that's not grocery, that's everything, my jeans, my t-shirts, my shoes, everything, right? And I think anybody at that age bracket kind of gets it, because who's going to walk into the store if you can get it on Amazon or anything, right? It just doesn't make sense. And so that channel shift is happening, whether people like it or not. When I was younger, you were younger, we had to go buy jeans. We would go to the store and we'd try it on, and then we'd have to go back to keep trying it on. Now you might go and try it once, and then you'll always buy it online, or you'll buy 3 online of 3 sizes to go, am I skinny enough? Does it fit? And am I too fat? Or will I grow into it? And then you return 2. This is what we all do.
Yeah.
This trend is happening, and the spend and where the share of the wallet is going is happening. So you're seeing it in grocery as well. But actually, if I buy my vitamins online, am I going to the store? Or maybe to talk to somebody and then I buy it online? Yeah. But what happens is there's an entire channel that people follow where they might need that touch point with the store, and then they eventually change. So the requirement and growth to have omnichannel and multiple omnichannels to serve these 5 different purchasing powers in the marketplace is growing. Because if I'm unable to buy, I don't know, I'll say vitamins. If I can't buy my vitamins on that side because I want to buy it on that side, I'll probably just go to a marketplace and buy it. And then you've lost the customer. So there's a huge debate about people, and I have some LinkedIn arguments about this actually, about cannibalization of customers in store versus online. And the answer is there will be cannibalization, of course, because people will stop going into a store to buy online. But the point is, if you don't have it online, they'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So how do you keep them in your ecosystem? And I think that's not a trend. That's just happening.
Yeah.
Because people are born now with they're learning, they're becoming native technology. We'll get to AI later on. So I think that's happening. The question as to when you automate is actually quite an interesting point, right? I think the first step for any retailer is, do I want to try omnichannel, right? And through COVID, we found people did, they might have had their own web shops. They might have worked with marketplaces. They might have done shop in shops or click and collect, or, worked with a 3PL, just different things, right? They would have gotten a couple of conveyors at the back of a store. I don't know, right? Like everyone bastardized something.
Yeah,
right?
We gave it a try.
So everyone's done something with something, whether it's last mile logistics, picking, technology, waste, inventory levels, everyone has done something, right? And then you go, great, so now I need to do more, but I don't know what. So kind of the first step, which you see, if I talk about grocery, for example, is you see grocers going, right, well, I'll do the click and collect, or they'll go, and this is kind of a global point, or they'll partner with a marketplace. So they'll go to, so in the UK, we'll see, which is really cool, you're seeing large grocers partnering with Deliveroo and Uber Eats, right? To get the same day offering, because the next day offering always exists, but everyone wants immediacy. People are paying for pricing their time, right? So like me, I get my groceries next day. I live in the UK, but if I've forgotten my bread and I want to make French toast, like I'm not going to the store, I'm going to order on Deliveroo because I have another offering to give it to me same day. Rohlik's not in the UK, unfortunately, yet.
Yeah.
Who knows, right?
We'll see, fingers crossed.
But so that's one part, right? So that's the first step. Now, if I'm a large grocer in the UK, what's happening now is I'm basically going to Deliveroo and Uber Eats. So that's great. So I'm kind of offering an omnichannel, but the range that they take, right? So the average basket for a grocery, or the average gross margin for a grocery basket is, it can range between 28 to 35, 36%, right? Depends on what people put in. And the marketplaces offer, their pricing can be between the 20 to 40% range, depending what you do. So you're giving a huge amount of margin away. Now that's okay, because if I'm trying to test if there's a demand that people who live within a 4-mile radius of this store want something in an hour, because Vineta's too fat to get off her sofa to go to the store, then that's a really good way to test. And that's a kind of a step one. It's like, I need to do something, but I don't want to spend more than, I don't want to spend 5 million. I don't even want to spend 1 million. I want to just do an operational cost to go, is there demand here? Because it also helps the grocer, because it means that inventory is churning in the store, right? Because, it's like, if no one's going to come, then I'm going to get it from somebody else, right? So, and then when you've got enough traction on that omni-channel where you're going to a marketplace, there comes a point where you're kind of like, man, I'm paying these guys all this money. Like, why? I want to keep the margin myself, because you're basically making no money on those grocery on those items. And then that comes to a conversation on, actually, do I want to keep investing in this channel? Is it growing for me or not? Which is a personal point to each grocer, and the answer is it will grow. And then it comes down to, what infrastructure do I have? Do I want to do a dark store? Do I want to offer more click and collect? Do I want to have shuttles around the store? Do I want to maybe just have a bigger partnership with a marketplace? Do I go to Amazon and I go onto Amazon Fresh in the UK, like how Morrison's have, and I offer a range? And these are the options that open. And I think that's when you kind of go, can I invest my capital for better, especially when the cost of capital right now is so high? And that's when you kind of go, I should talk to a third-party integrator. I should look at shuttles. I should look at conveyors. And that's really the point of when I think retailers should just step back and go, I'm spending too much money. And that price point of how much you spend is obviously dependent on size of retailer, et cetera. But you kind of prove it to go, there's demand.
Yeah, okay. And you've taken all of those steps. You've decided, right, we need to automate because of X, Y, Z and the reasons you mentioned there. And actually the reason why we started this podcast, in my opinion, you've hired a consultant, you've looked internally, you've analysed your strategy, your roadmap, your warehouse footprint, whether you need high density, low throughput or whatever, vice versa. You know roughly what you need. I need an AGV, I need an AMR, I might need an Autostore, etc., or a cube-based solution. Other solutions are available. How do you then decide what third-party integrator or what automation solution to go for? Because there's quite a lot of choice on the market, I think is fair to say.
I think it depends on what you need, right? I'm going to give a very generic answer here, right? Because it's like if I sell t-shirts, right? I actually don't care what I get, because I don't actually care if the t-shirt's thrown in a corner or whatever it is. If I'm selling Nike Air, right? Like I don't really care if the boxes are thrown here and there. If I'm selling a banana, the banana cannot be bruised, right? So I think it firstly depends on firstly, how much spend you have, number one. Number two, do you want to do a warehouse, right? Because that's the other thing. It's like you can go for a cubic ASRS or you can go for a conveyor system. But then the answer is, are you going to have a separate warehouse? Are you going to do a dark store? Are you going to do manual picking, right? So I think if you go, I'm happy with what I'm doing right now. I just want to change my large hypermarket store to have a certain amount that's only, that's kind of a quasi dark store on my large store. Then it comes down to, I probably need shuttles. I probably need like a bright pick or something. I probably need something that just kind of goes up and down, that just kind of reduces the human input, right? If I step back, what I'd probably say is that the first thing I think about, throughput and picking efficiency, because picking efficiency is important for me as a grocer because of the average items in my basket, right? Versus say I buy one t-shirt versus one pair of shoes. And the second thing is, my biggest cost, which is my biggest variable, is people. People get sick, people have kids, people have bad days, people come in hungover, people sometimes are inefficient in how efficient they are and how they pick between Monday and Thursday, just because they're humans. They're not dependable as bodies. That sounds so horrible saying that out loud. But you see what I mean, right? So my entire thesis from a finance perspective is, what do I do to remove people from my entire chain? And then it's a cost benefit analysis on actually, is it worth me spending this and removing the person just for this extra one picking productivity? Or is that actually worth it because it doesn't really matter when you think about the money, right? Yeah. So that's kind of it. And that's one of the missions we do in Rohlik. With Rohlik, we've automated so much in our warehouse, and we're finalizing one part of automation in our warehouse now, that like the view is that, I will have at least 50% of the labor that I paid for last year removed in the next 12 months out of my warehouse, because then I'll reduce my cost, but I'll have invested in more automation. That's kind of how I think about it. That's how most of them should think about it. So if I'm going, I want to do a dark store, then it's a case of people are walking up and down. I need a shuttle. Then if I go, right, well, I want to have manual picking positions, great. Instead of having somebody walk up and down manual picking positions, I then go for like a TGW or some kind of a conveyor system that then allows the person just to stay in one location and pick and not move up and down. Because when they walk 10 steps, it's 10 steps it's dead money to me, right? So I have to step back and go, how do I just stop someone from doing anything? All they do is that, that. Right? Then the third thing is, if I have a large SKU range, so I'm a grocer, in the UK, there are grocers, a lot of our grocers in the UK do 20, 30,000 SKUs, which is a huge amount. In Europe, the average is 5,000 to 7,000 SKUs on average. So Rohlik actually offer over 15,000 SKUs. So we have that kind of bigger offering, which we can do. When you have 15,000 items, right? You're probably going to need a cubic ASRS, right? And then that ends up being like your Autostore providers or integrator, Autostore and their integrators. It's an Ocado Solutions Cube or Hive, as they call it, or something in between, right? And I think the choice depends on what is your offering. Again, if I'm a fashion retailer and I have 50 types of garments and I have 10 types of clothes, it's 500. I don't need a cubic ASRS. I just probably need a conveyor system and a robotic arm that just goes around and does that, right? Like a Kindred or a Haddington type robot or a Covariant robot or something like that, or a picking arm. So I think these are the types of things, of choices of where you think about what you need. Just in the picking part. Let's not even talk about the last mile yet, right? Just the picking part. But again, it depends on the retailer what they need. For us in Rohlik, we have a large SKU range. We do same day. We have delicate products like the bananas or the mangoes. And so therefore we need a cubic ASRS, which we have an Autostore. We trialed and we're trialing more robotic arms. So we're using some Covariant. We're trialing some other vendors now as well. We're looking at the expedition. How do I get the grocer, the basket from here to the van? There's like a huge part. Someone's got to walk. I don't want them to walk. Great, cool. Bright pick shuttle system. And that goes back and forth, which is fantastic, right? So, it's these types of things. But the theme is removing people. Because, and I'm not saying I want to remove people. I want to use people to use their brains to do more value add things, not just not use people. And actually, if I can automate it through a variety of components, I should. But what we've done in Rohlik, and a lot of retailers don't think about this, is we've used different types of systems. So what happens is a retailer will say, like you said, I need to automate, right? So what they'll do is they'll go to a third-party integrator and they'll say, I need to automate, and they'll go, great, this is our suite. But the answer is you don't need to use their whole suite, right? Like, I mean, you don't have to, you can go and say, I want this, I want this, I want this. And that's the issue with the integrator market right now. They're obviously connected to a particular provider, which then don't allow you to look at the wider offering, which makes the market quite fragmented, because you're either in the Autostore ecosystem or you're in the TW ecosystem or you're, whether you're on supply chain, there's just different areas.
Does that then provide issues when it comes to, from your point of view at Rohlik, in terms of the integration, right? So say, or anyone in general, when you've sat down and gone, right, I want this from Covariant, I want this from Brightpick, I want this from TGW, I want this from Geek Plus, this from Autostore, and trying, you probably wouldn't want all those solutions in one warehouse, but that would get quite complicated. But in general, theoretically, if I wanted to do that, because they're all maybe so, like you say, fragmented, is it then difficult to bring them all together in terms of the integration, the collaboration, and you as the retailer or the grocer or the end user controlling and coordinating all of that?
It is hard to do that, right? And that's actually one of the issues with the people who are going to the market to buy, which is actually why Veloc is actually quite important, right? Which I'll come to in a second. So I'm a grocer. This is an omnichannel, right? This is like something that's growing, that's not really the most important thing because I have all these stores I care about, right? So it's kind of like not that important to me. And so therefore I go, right, this consultants come in and they've said you need to have these 4. So what happens is the customer, being the grocer in this world, will go, cool, so you install it, you put them in. But like these 4 providers that are different, firstly, are not only grocery specialists, they're generalists, right? So they don't understand. They understand, oh yeah, of course we can do it for a banana, right? But they don't really fully understand because maybe they've done it for a grocer once or twice. They don't do it day in, day out, right? Number 2, they'll all then work together to try and find a way to build the integration between the 2, but they don't really care because they care about this, or they care about this. They don't care about the whole thing. So what happens is, so what we've done in Rohlik is, we obviously have our own tech teams internally, so then business have to invest in tech teams, but because we're a natural pure play grocer, it's just been part of our ecosystem. Because although we're a grocer, we're a tech business proving our technology in grocery. That's actually what we are, because we built so much technology around it. We didn't go, oh yeah, so you'll build the integration layer. We were like, well, I know I need Vineta to go from here to here, so I'll build the tech around it. Because I know what good looks like, because I'm a grocer, I know what my customers want.
You provide the hardware and then I'll do.
But the customer to the third-party integrator is right now, like that grocer isn't going to do that. They're going to be like, but you said you were going to do that, and here's a statement of work, and you're going to do it in 6 months. They're not going to think it that way. And they go, oh, the productivity is like 100. And you'll go, but actually what they don't know is if you actually integrate it better, you can get it to 140, 150, 160. So it just... And I think that's one of the challenges. So I don't think it's actually hard to integrate. I think it's just that the people who are buying these 3 or 4 don't know that actually you can chop and change the technology with the right integration layer, which is what Block does, right? Which is what we've done, which we've proven in grocery. We have an Autostore. We've trialed different robotic arms from different providers. We have a Bright Pick. We're doing a lot more on the last mile, and we have different types of cars in last mile as well. It's not like the same with the same size, because we've trialed. We continuously trial, even on inbound, on supply chain. We have different technology stack, but the key point is they all talk to each other. Right, because each one of these vendors will provide their own tech software, and the answer is we just went, this doesn't work for us. We'll build our own on top of it.
Brilliant. Okay, awesome. And you touched on there, and going back to last mile, how is automation, robotics, AI impacting the last mile just in general, and then from your perspective within the grocery world as well?
Oh, goodness. That's a big question.
Let me start.
That's a big one. I don't think we have enough time. My God. I'm actually firstly, I think I just want to say I'm really passionate about the last mile, which sounds super lame. Because I think, having spent, 15 years of my career in pure play grocers, right? The last mile is the only touch point that the end customer, me or you, have to the brand, right? And it's one of the reasons why I'm very passionate about it, because when you use a delivery service partner, which is an outsourced partner, what happens is you get a different driver every time. We've all experienced it. The quality of service is different as well. And if that one interaction doesn't work very well, you might lose the customer, right? So I'm quite passionate about that entire experience that the end customer has, and especially in grocery, because people are very emotional when it comes to food. If you throw their bags of food, they get, and I get quite like, how dare you, it's my food, right? But it's I don't care if my jeans go in the hedge, like I don't care, but I do care if my bread is thrown slightly differently or whatever. It's so with the last mile, I think there's some really amazing things happening in automation, right? So, from a grocery perspective, we have ambient, chill, frozen, right? And so you need to be able to have multiple temperature control locations. You also want to maximize the throughput in the van, but also for a 1 to 3 hour delivery, a large kind of Mercedes Sprinter is going to be too big for a 3 hour delivery slot because of the cost effectiveness. So then you have to go for a smaller car. You go for a smaller car, you need to maximize the size that goes in, right? And then obviously what happens is in the summer, people buy more ice cream and then, less, less soups. And as a result, then you have more freezer space and less fridge space. And so grocery is really amazingly complex and fun, right? It's quite algorithmic and stuff. So I think there's a really interesting amount of technology happening. I've talked to some interesting businesses on how you do a chill and frozen end-to-end while just kind of having like a freezer box rather than a freezer section or a chill section. Because actually if you have a section and then it's the winter and it's half empty because you can't put anything in there, but if you have the right tote boxes that then stay cold for longer. So there's some interesting technology that we've looked at that I've seen. If I break down the costs on last mile, because again, the key part, finance person, right? You automate to reduce cost. So what are my costs? Fuel, fine. Car, fine. Human, great. I want a human in there, but my human doesn't actually have to be there all the time, right? So if I'm driving from, I don't know, London to Manchester in LGV, right? That's great. Does a person need to drive that? And actually what we're doing in Rohlik is we're currently, we're in a pilot in Germany where we're testing autonomous driving and autonomous vehicles. Because the way I see it going is I see that you'll just have these large either LGVs or HGVs depending on, or even just normal size vans, just going from, a centralized distribution center or a large hub to a neighborhood of a 2-mile radius. I'm making it up, right? And that can be autonomous, right? And then when it gets there, that you're seeing stuff like humanoids or drones or whatever, and I think that's quite interesting. But if I was to actually look at this from a finance perspective, I'm kind of going, I mean, the amount of tweaking you'd have to do to get the humanoid to do something now, it's kind of like, and I have to fix my P&L today, next year, the year after. Do I see that happening? My biggest cost is actually someone sitting in a car for 2 hours going back and forth or 8 hours going back and forth. I don't need to pay for that. So I think autonomous driving is a huge part, and we're seeing that. And we're trialing it in Germany, which is cool. The way I see the last mile happening is I still see that human touch point. But that's because as a grocer, that's quite important to kind of have someone, because again, it's that brand, it's that brand touch point. When you look at these purchasing powers in the marketplace, what you're finding is that people absolutely do not want to go into a store and they want to buy online, but they resonate with brands, they resonate with values, they resonate with the ESG strategy, the culture, what they stand for. People buy things that represent them and their personalities, if whether it's clothing or otherwise. And therefore, that human interaction is still kind of needed when retail brands are changing onto, their values and style, if I think about it from a non-grocery perspective. So that touch point is still important. And in grocery, massively important. Yeah. So I don't really see drones or humanoids, in the next 2 years at least. If I was going to pick between automating end-to-end driverless, I'd pick that from a P&L perspective every time.
Yeah. I saw a few years ago, Amazon, I want to say it was in Scotland, I might have made that up. Definitely in the UK though. Amazon were trialing. They released the first out-of-sight drone delivery. I want to say that's 2-3 years ago. Haven't really had anything since. Definitely in Milton Keynes as well. DPD were trialing like AGV or AMR delivery. Again, haven't really seen anything since. But then very recently, I saw it literally on the train this morning on LinkedIn, so it must be true. Amazon are trialing humanoids. I know they're working a lot with agility robots in terms of the inside the warehouse and humanoids in the operation there. But they sectioned off an area that created like a delivery or like a neighborhood, and they're trialing humanoids to deliver items from the back of a truck. So maybe not going to work in the grocery world, like you're losing that touch point. But going back to what you said, if it's just a pair of jeans or a t-shirt or something where it's not as important, potentially something that not for a good few years, don't get me wrong, but.
And I think humanoids in the warehouse make so much sense. Because again, if my entire purpose, it sounds so weird, is to remove my human touch point or my human labor in the warehouse, then absolutely, if I put humanoids in there who can basically be the same amount and I can capitalize it and it's less my P&L and it just kind of makes sense from that perspective. So
okay. Nearly running out of time. So we will go to, I think, your experience from Ocado. We've touched on it quite a lot, actually, especially from what you've learned, your finance background, combining that with automation and then what you brought into Rohlik. But any other points that you want to touch on in terms of your journey, in terms of Rohlik's journey, or even in terms of the grocery and automation journey? So quite an open-ended question, but...
God, that's a...
Yeah. Answer that in one sentence.
I think I've been very fortunate to work for two disruptive businesses. What Ocado did at the beginning, which is kind of cool. It's like they started doing online grocery in 2001. Like who was ordering in 2000? Like it's crazy, right? And they were absolutely pioneers of this entire industry that I operate in, which is there was no routing system, they built it. There was no WMS, they built it. They had to do all of that, right? And then you go to the Rohlik journey, which is so Ocado's 25 years old, Rohlik's now 10 years old. And so what Rohlik did was in 2014, there is routing software available, right? There is, not necessarily Ocado's, but other ones, right? There are WMSs available 14 years later. And so what's happened is where Ocado have built this amazing ecosystem that is their ecosystem, Rohlik have then proven that actually you can just chop and change from all these different things, trial, throw it away, trial to other things instead of being super precious about like their tech, right? Yeah. And I guess what I learned in all of these those 15 years, I guess, is now more than ever, being able to think differently is really important.
Yeah.
And being able to change your mind is very important, especially in the world of AI and machine learning. You know, even when we hire people into Rohlik, you know, and you're even seeing a lot of the CEOs in the US talking about this, people need to have an element of, you know, AI or coding competency, regardless of what function you're in. Even in finance, we're kind of going, how are you thinking about this? Because it ends up becoming, to work in an industry like this, it's about a mindset of not saying, no, this doesn't work. It's more of a, this can work, it's not for us, or this is interesting, let's explore it in a different way. And I guess what I learned just from those two businesses, which I brought to Rohlik and I talk to other businesses about now, is just having an open mind on completely disruption. Because you know, people are buying differently. People are buying, you know, they're not doing their grocery shop on a Friday. They're doing probably 3 shops, and they're going out for dinner a lot more, and they're getting takeaway, and they're buying from Deliveroo, and they're doing this, and they're, you know, and they're going to the market, and they're doing so many crazy things. So you have to be able to adapt to the customer. And that's what kind of those two businesses taught me.
Yeah.
You know,
and touching on what you said, and I kind of know the answer to this as I'm a headhunter, I'm seeing this a lot, but you mentioned hiring people within any level, managerial, senior, executive level, that have not necessarily an in-depth automation or AI background, but just a wider understanding on the supply chain and the pains and how automation can impact that. Where you said, obviously, I've been doing it for a long time, but we're in such a, not sure what you call it, a hyper boom of automation and AI, right? And things are rapidly advancing so quickly. Would you say it's difficult to find people that have got the right automation, the right AI, the right supply chain backgrounds to come into the business?
For sure, because, you know, if I go to the market, and I'm also, I was Chief People Officer as well at Rohlik Group for 7 months, as well, so I spent a lot of time on the recruitment side too. I think when you're going to recruit for these people, the first thing that I would think of, or someone would normally think of, you know, would go, I'll get someone who's really experienced in the industry, right? And they've done like 20 years or whatever it is, they understand it, but then are they keeping technologically up to date on what's actually happening, or are they going to be a bit more old school? I don't mean that in an ageist way, I just mean that and it always comes down to mindset, right? So it is hard to find people who have the experience but are trying to stay current, right? And that's actually a huge part. What we do in our business in Rohlik is we very much lead by example from the top, right? So, you know, we had a hackathon where we were an AI hackathon in the business. Board showed up. You know, CEO, COO, myself, we're always sharing things that we've built. You know, I was building chatbots in HR, just proving to them, look, I can do this, right? You know, they were like, oh, we don't have this, and I was like, there on one night, like coding in Python, just building something for them, right? Just to show them it's possible, that's right? Because what happens is when you do it, they'll go, well, they're definitely busier than me. And actually, if they can do it, then I can do it. And then they'll come and say, actually, can you show me how to do it? So I think that leadership from the top is quite important, which means that, you know, we in Rohlik and both businesses like us who are disrupting can move faster because we're pushing a tech first, disruption first, learning all the time first approach, you know, to our whole business. You want this kind of technology because you want to trial it? Fine, we'll pay for it. Go. Tell me what you can do with it. You know, what's a manual process that's now not, that feels repetitive? Tell us. Great. Let's find it. Like, what's a low-code way to try and automate it that makes you then free up 20% of your time? And when we drive that forward, the business drives it forward. So, you know, we have a lot of technology or AI in our supply chain. So now our like waste levels are 0.4%, which is like crazy. It's like absolutely globally leading. And that's just down to having good technology and the right people who have the experience, but with the right technology. But if you combine both of those in the market, I always bring that to a mindset. Because you have to kind of want to go, I'm going to sit down and try and teach myself a new skill. But the answer is, there are so many amazing, say, supply chain, I'll take supply chain as an example, supply chain professionals who are starting their careers today, who are probably like 21, who are starting with AI and machine learning, and they've done maybe a comp sci degree or whatever it is, right? And they're going to be the ones who are going to move super fast. So you have to, and especially with the speed of technology right now. So I think you have to learn this technology today or be left behind. And that's at every level, finance, HR, ops, everything. Because ops have automation, but the question will be in 3 years' time, is this automation good enough or not? You have to be willing to tear down your warehouse and do it again. And I have these conversations internally as well. I'm kind of like, if you could build this warehouse again, what would you do? Well, I wouldn't pick that location. I'm like, right, well, I can't change that. I can't change that. So I'm stuck with the lease.
Yeah.
If I was to just tell me, if you ripped it all out, what would you do? That's not something a CFO asks.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to kind of go, are you trying to patchwork something? And you're going to call me in 2 years and say, it's not working, I need more. Let's think 5 years and go, let's just spend more money now and fix it once and for all for a longer period.
Yeah.
And that kind of mindset of being able to, dismantle, rebuild, change, go, this works. Actually, it didn't work for a year, or it worked for a year. We're going to need just that continuous mindset is what keeps businesses like Rohlik at the forefront of people, technology, and actually just the growth that we're on.
Yeah. And do you find, is it exciting or scary, the general automation AI roadmap that we're in the industry?
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. It's great. And it's fascinating because people are kind of like, oh, but my job's like, I've met so many different people who are like skeptics of, it's like, oh God, oh well, no, ChatGPT went down, no, or like, oh yes, a large language model, right? It's like this moment in technology is like when someone said, I'm not using email. I'll just use faxes or I'll write memos. It's literally that moment. It's the internet's a fad. This is that moment we're in, which is crazy. And it's fascinating watching and living through this moment where people are skeptical or they're not embracing it, or some are crazily embracing it and they're running at speed. And then you're but remember, you can only go as fast as your weakest muscle.
Yeah.
And then how do you bring all these people with you?
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it. Because I love living in kind of, it's going to sound weird, like perpetual change, because I'm always challenged. I'm always thinking about things in a completely different way, which keeps my mind open all the time. And that's how we need. And that's exhausting for people, don't get me wrong, but that's kind of the environment we live in a macro environment as well. 100%. And therefore we have to adapt to that.
Yeah, I think it's just crazy. I mean, completely unrelated, but like my sister, she's a few years younger than me. Her mindset and just where she's, like you mentioned, keeping up with the change. She's come up with things and just ordering online and doing this. And her way of living is just completely different to mine. So I think, like you say, even from a consumer point of view, for the customer to understand the difference in age gap from 0 to 5 years is just complete night and day. So it's very crazy.
Yeah, I know it is. There's a silly anecdote where when millennials need to go book a holiday or do something, they actually don't do it on their phone. They actually go to sit down on a laptop and do it on a bigger screen.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And that's just a great example because then you're kind of like, and it's just adapting, and you have to force yourself out of these habits because people who are younger will force themselves out of it, will adapt quicker. And then, and you can see that in our parents or grandparents, how they're not adapting, and then you start to go, actually, no. So if I want to hire the right 15-year veteran in supply chain, they need to have that mindset like your sister.
Yeah.
So we should hire your sister.
There you go, yeah. I'll send her a CV. Send her CV to you, sorry. Final question. I'm going to actually answer it first. So, piece of technology you're most excited for. I'm going to go out from my point of view and say I had a friend, I think he was in Texas, and he got an Uber or a taxi, and it was completely automated, so driverless. I think it was actually in a Tesla, which is probably quite controversial now. But anyway, the idea itself is really cool, right? And you mentioned autonomous driving, so that's why I thought it triggered something, so I wanted to bring it up. But piece of technology in general or automation or anything that's exciting for you now or in the next few years, what's out there?
I mean, if I was to, I think the generic answer is going to be like everything that's happening in AI right now, like everything, because like every single day there's something else that I can automate a workflow with, right? Yeah. So it's quite hard to kind of pinpoint something down when every day I'm trialing a different thing, or I'm trying to, build an agent, or I'm implementing agents in different areas. So I think that's just one. I think when it comes to hardware, and this is like a non-grocery answer, the way that I think there was the Talibot, the Sim Talibot, where they're looking at inventory levels in the store is quite interesting. Because I can't remember who it's been launched with, but that's quite interesting because actually, if I'm trying to get a large retailer who's not really predominantly omnichannel, I care about my stock levels, so then I can actually have omnichannel so I can fulfill from the store, and understanding my inventory and having something going up and down and doing that kind of cyclical counting of inventory in whether it's a grocery store or whether it's a health store or a clothing store is actually quite fascinating actually, because one of the biggest issues for retail wherever you are is inventory. There is what stock do we have, etc. And that is a human-led count system. Unless you have a cubic ASRS, which gives you cyclical counts all the time, everything requires, because the store we count the books, right? So having something like that is actually fascinating, because that's really going, because physical retail stores in the high street is not going anywhere. It is going to stay. So how do you adapt and bring better technology to it to make that more efficient? So that's
I guess from that as well, you can then, I guess you can technically predict trends as well, right? Because during winter, like you said, you're not going to sell really ice cream. Summer you are, for example, right, from a grocery point of view. But with the use of AI and agents, you can probably be a lot more specific in terms of predicting future trends, and trends like daily or weekly or monthly, right? Rather than just thinking this is Christmas, this is summer,
hourly, in grocery.
Hourly, being less seasonal.
Absolutely, because but we do that. We have our own AI demand forecasting now that predicts our hourly groceries. So then we order for that, and we've had that in place for over a year now, which is why we're able to get to 0.4% waste levels, because the market on average is 3% in retail, which is crazy. So from a hardware perspective, that's quite interesting. And then from a software, I think it's too broad of a question, because there's some amazing things out there that it's just kind of, and then in two days it'll change again, which is cool.
Brilliant. I think that concludes the podcast. We are restricted on a time limit because there's construction works in the office building, so they'll start drilling in probably 5 minutes. So we'll have it to come to a forced stop, but I could talk to you all day. We'll definitely do a follow-up. It's been brilliant speaking to you. And we'll speak very soon.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers, thanks.